I've lost so many blade baits to big fish, getting down in the trees, what have you, that I've had to come out here and make me up a few more. But anyway, I've lost so many lures to big fish breaking off in deep water that I had to make me up some more. So I've already poured the lead on my blanks. Now I gotta hook them. Gotta put hooks, split rings and hooks on. But I guess if you gotta replace your lures, the fact that you lost them to big fish, I guess that's a good enough reason. Start the day by trolling the spoon plug jig trailer, longest brake line, see what I can come up with. We let out 10 layers to begin with. That'll put me about 25 feet. You know, if you go online on YouTube or anywhere else, you see more, just a tremendous number of ways that people have come up with, and they think, boy, that's the magic way to fish this. It's a blade bait. It's a jump type lure. It's what in the world it is. And somebody go out and they have success using a certain little twitch or a certain little retrieve or something, and they think, well, this is the way to fish a blade bait. So they'll make a video of that and put it up, and this is the way to do it. Well, that might have been the way to do it at that time, but how long will it be before those set of circumstances duplicate themselves again? But the simple fact of the matter is, it's depth and speed, depth and speed, depth and speed. You use this lure like any other lure. You've got to put it at the same depth the fish is, then move it at a speed that'll get a reaction out of the fish. Now, right here today, I'm going to be fishing along a little drop off here. Along this underwater structure, this underwater bar that comes out, and it drops off at right around 40 feet. But when I say that it's a matter of depth and speed, it's always depth and speed, always depth and speed. You got to put your lure, primarily, first and foremost of all, you've got to put your lure at the same depth that the fish is. If your lure is not at the same depth that the fish is, I don't care if you've got the greatest size, color, and action ever invented. You're not going to catch diddle. You have got to put your lure at the same depth that the fish is. Simple as that. Then you move it at a speed that gets reaction out of it. Now the fish, that forces a strike out of it. Now the right speed can be anything from dead still to just to violently move. But some guy come out there and he'll say just tiny little lift like this. This is the way to do it. This is the correct way. This is the best way. It may have been at that time. But start out, I mean, you can have slow little hops near the bottom. You can come on up a little bit. Pick your speed up just a hair. It can be real slow. It can be kind of medium, let it fall back. You can pick it up, let it fall on a slack line. You can pick it up, let it fall. You control the fall, but with your rod. So it can be anywhere from tiny little twitches to slow lifts, barely off the bottom. Quick lift off the bottom, just off the bottom. It can be slower lifts, way up. You lift it 5-10 feet off the bottom, let it drift back. It can be quick jerks off the bottom, quick jumps off the bottom. You keep trying all these various depths and speeds till you find what it takes for that day. So I'm constantly varying just a little bit here, a little bit more, a little faster still, very fast. You just keep varying it till you find what will trigger a strike. It's that simple. That is when you're fishing it vertically. You can cast it out, make a long cast, and hop it back across the bottom at slow hops, fast hops, little bitty hops, great big hops, whatever. But it's just vary the depth and speed regardless of the time of the year that you're fishing. People say it's a winter time. No, a blade bait is an excellent blade to use any time that a jump type lure is called for. Like right now, there's no way I can cast and use a free running bottom bumping crankbait down there at that depth. So I've got to check it out with a jump type lure, and a blade bait is a very good jump type lure. It resembles a shad. It's got those hard vibrations which draw attention to itself. And by varying your depth and speed on or near structure, that's your best chance. So will we locate any today? Who knows, but we're sure going to give it a try. And we're going to be varying our presentations till we find what works. Finally, here we go. Oh shit, come on. Come on. There, go. I'm messing around. Trying to get my darn camera fixed up. He got off. What I get for not having the camera ready in the first place. So let's go back and get him again. I got it. I lost one just a second ago from messing around trying to get the other camera set up. This is a pretty good fish here. A good fish, as a matter of fact. Pull him very hard, but he's on a 40-foot break line. It's actually the drop off. 40-foot drop off into deep water, 100 feet of water. He's not a monster by any means, but he's a take-homer. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Nice hybrid. I'm all fixed up here. Hey, hey, hey. There's no sense in being ugly about it. You done caught, so there's no sense in being ugly now. Boy, oh boy, you mangled that hook, didn't you? I'm trying to straighten that hook out. Gracious. Pretty good fish. Let's get him all. Hey, buddy. That's it. You're already caught. A really good one. Got a good one going here. Oh, you got in the tree. Come on. Come on. Shoot. Broke off that time. Go with the gun. I need to pick up my marker buoy and do something different. fish. Fish. Nope, you don't. Oh, get up like a boat. This is big and going deep. Good fish. Good fish. You don't want to give up yet. Nope, you don't. Oh, get up under the boat. Goodness gracious. Gosh, man. He's on the wrong side of the boat. Getting down in the tree. We're trying to gosh, man. He's on the wrong side of the boat. Down in the tree. We're trying to
Let's see. Largemouth. He's on the spoon clip. Keep from handling him here. Decent largemouth there. All on the spoon plug at 30 feet. If you watched several of the last videos, you'll get some hint as to why I'm having to make up some more blade baits. Man, I thought I had a pretty good supply of them, and I did, but I have lost so many blade baits to big stripers and big hybrids, big stripers, getting down into the submerged timber, that I've got to make up a new supply of blade baits now. Ain't that something? At least, if you lose them to fish. You know, I keep trying to get anybody that might be watching any of these videos to go to YouTube and look up Don Dixon Fishing and learn how to really catch any kind of fish anywhere in the world any time of the year, because he's following Buck Perry. Don's teaching pure Buck Perry. And the number, you'll find that the number one thing that catches fish is depth and speed, period. Depth and speed. And so I make these little blade baits, and I don't bother to color them or paint them or anything else. I mean, you put it at the depth that the fish is, and move it at a speed that gets a reaction out of him, fine. That's all you really need. So, painting these little eyes, has that over the years given me another fish or two? Could be, who knows? Are they necessary? Absolutely not. It's depth and speed, not size, color, and action. But our primary bait fish is shad. And these little fellows resemble a shad quite closely. And one of the things Buck says, fish tend to go hit something that looks natural, acting in an unnatural manner. So even though these things look like a lot like shad, there's no way you can make them look absolutely natural. So that's just another thing in your little bag of tricks. But does that eye make a big difference? I don't think it makes a big difference, but it might actually get you another fish, because it's just another thing to help it look like a shad, acting in an unnatural manner. Oh, I was watching a video the other night, and I swear most of these people on there, if they just knew how silly they really sounded, if they would learn true fishing, Buck Perry true fishing, that's taught by Don Dixon, that you can learn on go to YouTube, Don Dixon Fishing, and learn how to catch any kind of fish anywhere in the world, any time of the year. And it's the truth about fish. It's what makes a fish tick. How a fish reacts to every kind of condition around him, with weather and water and everything else. And then the number one thing that catches fish is you've got to have your lure at the same depth the fish is. Then if you move it at a speed that gets a reaction out of him, it's an involuntary thing. You catch him, depth and speed. Depth and speed, depth and speed, depth and speed. But you see people on there that's fishing no different than their forefathers did for thousands of years. Even if it wasn't for the modern electronics, they do help people catch a few more fish than they used to, say, 50 years ago. But basically, they don't know any more than they did. It's just this foolishness. I mean, they're always talking about just size, color, and action. And size, color, and action, the best size, color, and action in the world, fished at the wrong depth, at the wrong speeds, never will catch diddle. But anyway, this guy was talking about blade baits, and he's putting all you need to know about blade baits. All you need to know about blade baits. And he and his buddy convinced themselves that a plain blade like this just was not effective. Even though these plain little blade baits have been catching fish out the yin-yang for quite a number of years now. They convinced themselves that the plain bait just not effective. So what they come up with was the idea that if they put a big red spot right about right here, a big old red spot right about where I put that little black dot right there, they put a big red spot right there, and they went out and caught fish. It was the red spot that caught the fish. How foolish can you be? Oh my goodness. And sometimes it gets embarrassing to watch watching some of these people. And I'll tell you another thing. If you're watching somebody, a fisherman on there, and he's got a jumpsuit on, looks like a race car driver. You know, he's got patches and decals all over him, or his shirt, or his jacket, and everything else. He's just eat up in patches and decals and stuff. Anything that man says, you better learn to take it with a grain of salt, because everyone he's not wearing those patches and decals just out of the goodness of his heart. He's wearing them because he's paid to wear them. And the reason he's paid to wear them is he's paid to promote those products. So what he's a salesman. He's trying to sell you something. So when you go on TV and you see some fisherman wearing all these patches and stuff, just remember, his purpose is to try to sell you something, not teach you how to catch fish. He's a salesman. He's not a fisherman, he's a salesman. Okay? So take whatever these fancy looking pros tell you with a grain of salt, because their purpose is sales. Fishing today is sales. It's not knowledge, it's sales. It's a multi-billion-dollar business. So pay attention. And certainly not just a red dot painted on the side of something. Did I paint those black eyes for you? Yeah. It might be an aid. It might even, over the course of this lure's life, it might even account for a fish or two. You never know. But is it the black eye or the red dot right here that catches a fish? No. It's the depth this thing's at and the speed it's moved at. Now, if the dot, the black eye, make a difference, could be. Don't hurt, but that's not the reason that they hit it. Yeah, I'm going to have to change a few things on my deep jigging for stripers and hybrids. Right now, most of them are coming off a deep break line, somewhere between 30 and 40, 45 feet. And the break line itself, the bar, the break line may be clean enough to fish without getting hung up too much. But right at that break line, where that break line just breaks off, the bar runs out, you know, the kind of steady, then it's breaking off. Here at about 40, 45 feet, it's pretty clean. You can fish it okay. But when they cut the timber or farmed the land before the lake was built, on this slope, the slope and break line down there, until it goes down to the flats at the original river channel, they didn't cut a lot of this timber off. So you can imagine your break line, let's say your break line's right here, okay? Well, you got trees along here, along the drop off, that the tops come right up to that 40-foot area. So even though the bar itself may be clean and the break line itself may be clean, but right at that break line, you've got trees that's growing up all along this slope. This slope from the break line to the slope, there's trees all over the place. And just having entirely too many fish getting down in that into those trees and breaking off, so I'm going to have to change things a little bit. Normally, I'm fishing 30 pound on the jigs, and I'm using 30 pound braid with a 15 pound test monofilament leader. And on most all my rods, whatever they are, if I'm fishing bass and or stripers or hybrids and stuff, our lakes are generally pretty open. I use 15 pound test line. I use 17 pound test no-bow on my trolling rods, but I pretty much use just 15 pound, and that's plenty adequate to control the fish out in open water. But when they're that close to that timber, in other words, if you catch them a lot of times a year and they're up shallower, they got to get down to the 40 feet, you know, to get to the timber. Right now, I'm catching them right at the edge of the timber, and they're getting down in that cotton picking timber and break me off. So I'm going to run down to Bass Pro or someplace here in a little while, and I'm going to up my game a little bit here. I'm going to get 40-pound test braid and probably 25-pound test fluorocarbon, and to where I can put the pressure on those things to try to keep them out of that timber. And then if that ain't heavy enough, I'll go even heavier. But right now I'm going to go 40-pound braid, 40-pound test braid, 25-pound fluorocarbon, or maybe 30. Who knows? I may even go 30 pounds. But anyway, I'm going to have to do something to try to keep them boogers out of that timber. So it costed me too many plugs, and I'd rather fish is to make lures. So anyhow, I got to get in here in the house and start putting some hooks on these things. I guess it's time to start putting some hooks on these blade baits that I just molded. But it's just talking about blade baits. Simply put, most of what you hear or see on YouTube or whatever, it's just foolishness. If you want to cut through the bull, learn the simple truth about how to catch. Now pound this over and over and over again. How to catch any kind of fish anywhere in the world at any time of the year. A man named Buck Perry figured that out back in the 1940s. For heaven's sake, he put everything that he knew, that he learned, he put it down in print, and he taught it in schools around over the country for years. And then he got a man named Don Dixon, who became his #1 instructor into the Buck Perry type of fishing or form of fishing that we call today structure fishing. He's the daddy of structure fishing. Now, most people don't even, they use the word structure and various other words that he coined to put with fishing. Fishermen use it and they have no idea what they're talking about. But anyway, when it comes to these little fellas, these little blade baits, you hear as much goofy stuff on there as you did 10 years ago. For number one thing you hear now is it's a winter time bait. And they'll say, when the temperature gets below 50 degrees, it's the time to bring out your blade bait. It's foolishness. It's foolishness. A blade bait is nothing but a jump type lure. There's only 4 different categories of lure. You got surface lures, which are seldom ever effective, but they're wonderful when you can catch fish on surface. They're a ball. They're a ball, but they're not even a 1% of the time are they effective. Then you got a weedless type lure, okay, that you use it when it's necessary. Then you've got free running, bottom bumping, or crankbait, something that you impart the speed to the lure by reel action or by your trolling speed. And then you've got jump type lures, the plastic worms, the plastic stuff, or whatever it is, something that you impart the action to it with your rod action. It's a jump type, something you jump off the bottom, you lift off the bottom. And a blade bait is nothing but a jump type lure. Now, people say they use it in cold water. It's a cold water lure because you're fishing deep. You're fishing deep and you're fishing slow. And good Lord, what catches fish is depth and speed. Put your lure at the same depth that the fish is, move it at a speed that enforces reaction out of him, and you got him. It's as simple as that. So this is not a winter lure. It's a jump type lure that you can use anytime of the year, period.
Now, what you want to use most of the time is a free run, a crank type lure. That's your most versatile. That's the best. But when you find a situation where crankbait is not appropriate, then you've got a choice of going to a jump type bait. And a blade bait is an excellent jump type lure. It comes, you can put it in many different weights for fishing to various depths or speeds, and your speed control is brought about by your action. Now, some guys on there, they told me, I said, you want to use it so slow, you want to lay on the bottom, and you just want to turn it over. Just want to turn it over. That's the key to fishing a blade bait. Good Lord. Then the next one said, you want to lose it where it vibrates twice. It goes, put it, and you let it fall back to the bottom. The next guy comes and said, no, you want it to go 3 times. You know, then you let it fall back to the bottom. And then the next guy say, oh, you want a slow, steady lift. You want to lift it up 5 or 6 feet and let it fall. The next guy said, rip it off the bottom, you know, then let it fall back. Any and all of those can be correct. It's what speed it took. Was it just barely moving it off the bottom? Was it moving it up a foot? Was it moving it up like boop, 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 and letting it fall back freely? Or was it ripping it up a little bit and letting it fall back on a tight line? You can control the rate of fall with your rod. When you follow, you lure down with your rod. So you can use a heavy, heavy, heavy jig blade bait to get you down to the depths you want. You can let it free fall and vary your speed by the weight of the plug that you're using, or you can vary your speed on the fall by following it down with your rod tip. And you vary your speed by how quick you lift it off the bottom. It can be used anytime, so it's not a cold water lure. It's a lure that's appropriate for any time that a jump type bait is called for. And the fact that it does have a hard vibration, which attracts fish. It attracts fish. It's a hard vibrating thing that they pick up along their lateral line or what have you. Anyway, simply because it does draw attention to itself. And you can use it at any depth, at any, you can vary your speed tremendously with it. Not like you can with a crankbait. But next to a crankbait, something like this or similar to this, as far as a jump type bait, if you can use it with all these open hooks on it, it's an excellent choice. So don't let somebody tell you it's a winter time bait. No, it's a year-round bait. Just vary your speed to get a reaction from your fish. It's as simple as that. Okay? I got to get to putting some hooks on these that I just molded up. Goodness gracious. Once you learn the simple truth about fishing, how to go about it, successfully go about fishing, how to be consistently successful. Consistently successful. It's a simple procedure. All you got to do is learn it. Anybody can learn it. If I can learn it, anybody can. So I learned. Then when you go on and you see this stuff, it's just on and on and on about some kind of special size or color, or some kind of an action, or some kind of a little twitch or something that you give, that your success is to that. It's accredited to that. It's just crazy. I mean, anyway, do yourself a favor and go there. Now, but go back to the blade bait. This is the first one that I just put the hooks on, okay? Now, in the back, I like to use a size 6, a little bit longer, a little bit bigger hook. But in the front, I use an 8 for a simple reason that this hook, this front hook, can and will flip up and sometimes will catch right along the top edge of your, where you mold your lead in. And it'll get this hook will be fouled out. So I use a slightly smaller hook in the front to prevent this hook from getting fouled out in front. So I use an 8 in the front and a 6 in the rear. And believe it or not, these will hold big, big, big fish. You don't need a monster hook on here. these little rascals, these little needle sharp point hooks, they will hold. So that's my trick on using, everybody else got their tricks on using blade baits. My trick is use a hook that don't foul out up here on the front. You want your hook, you want your lure working for you all the time, not part of the time. So anyway, I got several more lures to go here, so I better get busy.